Okay, let's unpack this. We're seeing, a fundamental revolution in the nature of conflict.
They really are.
It's all being driven by these uh, cheap, ubiquitous sensors and these hyper-accurate, long-range fires.
Right.
If you follow military strategy at all, you know that the heavy, visible formations that, really dominated the late 20th century, they're becoming liabilities.
Huge liabilities.
So today we are diving into a really comprehensive proposal. It's a detailed white paper, actually, that outlines what the immediate future of tactical land warfare might look like for NATO.
And it's a vision. It's born directly from the harsh, undeniable lessons learned on the what they call the transparent battlefields of the Russo-Ukrainian War.
Transparent battlefields, I like that term.
The premise is stark. The paper states the environment is now, and this is a quote, defined by ubiquitous sensors and long-range precision fires.
So what does that actually mean operationally?
It means the old ways of, moving large, heavy formations around, they're becoming obsolete the moment they're spotted, they are targeted.
Instantly.
Instantly. So this proposal, it zeroes in on deterrence on NATO's eastern flank. It demands a structure that's lethal, yes, but above all, it has to be agile, autonomous, and crucially, low signature.
And the centerpiece of this whole proposed doctrine is the 150 personnel Combined Arms Motorized Company. And when you hear 150 personnel, you might think, okay, that's a standard light infantry company. But the capabilities, the sheer operational weight that's packed into this small footprint, it's astonishing. It's almost unrecognizable compared to what exists today.
That is the core concept. It's all about self-sufficiency and autonomy at the lowest possible tactical echelon.
Right.
This proposed structure, it systematically pushes capabilities that were traditionally held much, much higher at the battalion, the brigade, even the division level. It pushes them all down to the company commander's immediate control.
And we're talking about major capabilities here.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about integrated organic fires, organic unmanned aerial systems, or UAS. We're talking dedicated engineering assets, intelligence specialists, and incredibly sophisticated dispersed sustainment capabilities.
All baked into this 150-person team.
Exactly.
So that's the mission statement for this deep dive. We're going to dissect this proposed formation, try to understand how it achieves that massive leap in autonomy, how it accelerates the operational tempo, and, crucially, how it manages to significantly increase survivability against a peer threat.
In an environment where, as we've said, everything that moves can be seen, and everything that is seen can be killed.
The whole design philosophy seems to revolve around two core principles. Outpace the enemy's decision cycle and dramatically shrink your own logistical and signature footprint.
And that first one, the ability to outpace the enemy's decision cycle, that is the modern tactical high ground. That's the whole game.
Explain that a bit more. Well, think about it. If a company commander has to wait even 5 minutes for their battalion HQ to approve air support, or to confirm a target, launch a fire mission, or even just authorize advanced reconnaissance,
We're losing.
they are losing precious time and perhaps the fight itself. This proposal is explicitly engineered to eliminate that wait time. It gives the company commander the immediate tools to manage the entire combat cycle from end to end, right there on the front line, without having to rely on these external entities.
So let's start with those foundational principles then, because every decision in this structure really seems dictated by that environment.
It is.
The choice of motorized versus, say, heavy mechanized isn't just a budget thing, is it? It's a survival mechanism.
It's entirely a survival mechanism. The paper argues that the environment requires units that can just move faster than the enemy can find them. And if we accept that premise, that the operating environment is defined by these persistent, ubiquitous sensors. We're talking satellites, high-altitude surveillance drones, Group 4 and 5 assets, tethered sensor systems, and swarms of cheap tactical drones.
Everything is watching.
Everything is always watching. Every platform is under constant observation. So the critical insight here is that when a threat has that kind of persistent surveillance and combines it with precision-guided munitions that can strike targets tens of kilometers away.
Your heavy footprint becomes a liability, a death sentence almost.
Precisely.
So heavy armor, which, for generations provided superior personnel protection, now does the exact opposite. It acts as this giant blinking beacon for the enemy's best weapons.
That is the harsh pivot. The old assumption was that heavy armor protected you from kinetic threats, cannon fire or machine gun. The new reality is that a massive thermal or electronic signature, the kind generated by a heavy formation, It draws the most devastating fire. You attract the high-value anti-armor assets, the long-range loitering munitions, the precision artillery.
You literally become the #1 priority target on their list.
You do. And the cost of engaging you is now justified for the enemy because you're such a big, valuable target.
Which brings us directly to this motorized principle and the whole concept of low signature. What are the specific survival factors that wheeled vehicles offer over tracked vehicles in this new environment?
Well, signature reduction is paramount. It's everything.
Okay.
Wheeled platforms inherently have a lower thermal footprint. Their engines are often less powerful. They're smaller than those huge power packs in a tank.
Yeah.
And they use rubber tires instead of massive metal tracks generating heat through friction.
I hadn't even thought about the friction from the tracks.
It's a huge thermal giveaway. They also have a reduced acoustic and electronic signature compared to the heavy sensor arrays and active protection systems you'd find on a main battle tank.
So what does that all add up to?
It just means they're less likely to be successfully detected in the first place. Or, and this is crucial, they're less likely to be prioritized by the enemy's high-value, long-range anti-armor assets.
It sounds like in the modern environment, being low priority is the new definition of protection.
That's a perfect way to put it, yes. Yeah. And that ties directly into the mobility and versatility aspect of this. This motorized unit, it emphasizes sheer speed and agility.
So they're not designed to slug it out in a classic tank battle?
Not at all. They're designed to outmaneuver the enemy's entire targeting and engagement cycle. They can leverage secondary roads, even rough terrain, and do it rapidly.
And this is where the use of optionally crewed vehicles, or OCVs, comes into the picture. Yeah. We hear this term a lot, but for a motorized company like this, how do OCVs translate into, an actual operational benefit?
OCVs are just crucial because they balance that rapid mobility with the concept of acceptable loss. An OCV is a wheeled vehicle, maybe an IFV or just a utility truck, that can be operated traditionally with a crew. But in high-risk zones or during, say, repetitive logistical missions, it can be operated remotely or autonomously.
So you take the soldier out of the loop, out of the vehicle itself.
Exactly. And that reduced dependence on personnel for every single platform directly influences both the logistical burden. Fewer crew members mean less demand for food, water, rest, and more importantly, the survival calculus.
And that leads us to the grim, but I guess necessary discussion of attritability. This formation is designed to accept losses differently.
Yes. The concept of attritability acknowledges that in a high-intensity peer conflict, losses are guaranteed. It's a certainty. The design, however, seeks to manage the scale and the quality of those losses.
What's the trade-off, then?
Let's look at it. If a heavy M1 Abrams or a Leopard 2 tank is destroyed, you lose a multi-million-dollar, incredibly complex machine and, catastrophically, a highly trained 4-person crew.
And replacing that crew is not easy.
It takes years of intense, specialized training and experience. You can't just create a tank crew overnight.
Whereas with these motorized OCVs,
if a lower-cost, optionally crewed, wheeled vehicle is destroyed while it's operating remotely on, say, a high-risk reconnaissance mission, you lose the platform, which is often cheaper and quicker to replace.
You save the people.
You save the highly trained personnel. And the white paper's language is very specific and, brutal here. Personnel is the strategic resource, and platforms are tactical expenses.
Wow.
It's a pragmatic design choice that prioritizes the long-term integrity of the fighting force over the immediate protection of a single asset. It allows the company to accept tactical losses while maintaining its operational coherence, which is crucial for sustainability in a protracted conflict.
That reframing personnel as strategic, platforms as tactical, that is a profound philosophical shift in how NATO has traditionally valued its assets.
It is.
Okay, so let's switch to the second half of the core concept. Why combined arms? This isn't just about fast infantry. It's about the integration of all combat functions.
The central driver here is autonomy. It's about achieving what you could call instantaneous synchronization.
Okay.
By integrating maneuver, fires, counter-air, engineering, intelligence, and sustainment organically within the company itself, the unit gains operational independence from higher headquarters.
And that independence translates directly into speed.
Into a lightning-fast operational tempo.
So we're shifting from the traditional reliance on attachment, where the company has to ask for assets and they get attached temporarily, at prioritizing permanent synchronization at the lowest level. Let's delve a bit deeper into the benefit of bypassing what you called C2 lag.
C2, command and control lag, is the absolute bane of modern high-speed operations.
Give us a typical scenario.
Okay. A ground element is advancing and identifies a dug-in enemy machine gun nest blocking their path, maybe 500 meters away. In a standard formation, the platoon leader requests indirect fire.
Right. Calls it up the chain.
That request goes to the company commander, who vets it, passes it to the battalion fire support officer, the FSO. The FSO then has to check their assets mortars, artillery-confirmed deconfliction, get approval from the battalion commander, and then pass the mission down to the actual firing unit.
That sounds like a lot of steps.
It is,
Yeah.
and that complex chain can easily take 3 to 7 minutes.
And what happens in 7 minutes on a highly dynamic battlefield?
The enemy moves, the weather changes, or, most critically, the machine gun nest starts shooting at the platoon that is still waiting for support.
But in this proposed company...
In the Combined Arms Motorized Company, the process is compressed. The sensor, maybe an air platoon UAS or ground recon, spots the target. The data is fused by the O&I platoon, and the company commander, who has organic control over the fires platoon's 105mm systems, issues the command directly.
So the decision-to-action cycle might be what, 90 seconds?
90 seconds, maybe less.
You're eliminating 3 or 4 steps in the command chain. That is a massive acceleration.
It allows the company to react instantly to a threat, rather than being forced into this holding pattern, waiting on support from a higher echelon that is juggling dozens of competing requests from other units.
And the sources note how this scales up.
Yes. If the battalion is composed of 3 of these companies, so about 600 personnel total with HQ, the battalion commander's job changes entirely.
How so?
They are no longer micromanaging individual fire requests or engineer attachments for Company A. They're synchronizing the deep effects and logistical pathways for 3 highly self-sufficient tactical elements. It applies an economy of force principle directly to the most critical resource there is: command attention.
That makes the doctrinal argument crystal clear. The goal is independence and speed. Now, let's get into the structure, how they fit all this expertise into a 150 personnel ceiling. The company is organized into 5 distinct platoons.
Right, which helps the commander maintain a manageable span of control.
Let's start with the most traditional element, the ground maneuver platoon.
Okay. The ground maneuver platoon remains the primary element for offensive and defensive ground maneuver. They are the team that takes and holds ground.
So that core function doesn't change.
No, but how they do it does. It's built around 3 to 4 maneuver sections, typically 8 to 10 personnel each, mounted on those highly mobile motorized OCVs we talked about.
And they have their own fire support.
They do. They have a dedicated heavy weapons section, providing mobile support by fire with heavier machine guns and anti-tank systems than standard infantry usually carries.
But the key differentiator here, as the source materials point out, is the organic engineer section. This is, almost unheard of at the company level.
It's a critical investment. Engineers are usually retained at the battalion or even brigade level because their equipment is bulky and their skills are so specialized.
But you can't wait for them.
In a dispersed, low-signature environment, waiting for external engineer support just breaks the entire operational tempo. It grinds you to a halt. By organically embedding an engineer section, the company gains immediate combat support.
What are the immediate operational tasks they can execute right then and there?
So immediate mobility and counter-mobility tasks. If the company encounters a hasty enemy obstacle, a small minefield, or just a simple wire entanglement,
They don't have to stop and call for help.
they can initiate a breaching operation on the spot without stopping the assault. And they can also use that capability for survivability. For instance, within minutes of occupying a defensive position, they can use their equipment to rapidly construct hasty berms or dig fighting positions for the motorized vehicles. They can even prepare demolitions.
So they eliminate that time gap between identifying an engineering problem and actually addressing it.
That resilience is priceless.
Okay, moving on to the second pillar, which feels like the most futuristic component. The Air Manoeuvre platoon. This is clearly a recognition that the third dimension, that low air domain, is where the tactical fight is won or lost now.
It absolutely is. This platoon is the company's eyes, its ears, and its active shield in the air. It is entirely dedicated to controlling the company's vast and diverse fleet of UAS.
What are we talking about here? Everything from
handheld Group 1 surveillance drones that a soldier can launch from their hand, all the way up to medium-sized attack and reconnaissance assets.
You said a diverse fleet. What kind of tasks are they performing beyond just simple scouting?
Well, they manage a tiered system. First, there's persistent ISR intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. That's essential. They might use small, long-endurance UAS or even tethered drones for continuous, stable surveillance over a forward base.
Inoffensively.
Offensively, they're conducting reconnaissance, target acquisition, and using specialized systems, they're delivering air-to-ground effects. That includes loitering munitions.
But the truly transformative element, as the paper highlights, is their defensive task. Defensive counter-air, or DCA.
Absolutely. This platoon is the first line of defense against aerial threats. They are tasked with defending the company's area against the entire spectrum of enemy tactical aerial threats.
Not just little drones.
Not at all. Group 1 through 5 UAS, low-flying helicopters, and even assisting in the detection of cruise missiles or larger threats to cue higher echelon defense systems.
Wow.
They perform what's called an airborne early warning function, an AEW function. They use their persistent coverage to tip and cue both the fire's platoon and the ground elements before an incoming threat becomes critical.
So they are acting as the company's dedicated organic air defense and radar screening system, but all via drones.
That's it, exactly. And this robust capability enables a concept the paper calls air-ground bounding.
Okay, what's that?
It's a way to sustain a much higher operational pace. When the ground maneuver platoon needs to halt, maybe to rest, refit, resupply, or act as a quick reaction force.
You don't want to lose momentum or situational awareness.
Right. So the air maneuver platoon can launch a robust UAS swarm, maintaining 24/7 surveillance and reconnaissance coverage over the entire area of operations. It prevents the enemy from exploiting a period of rest or vulnerability. They're essentially trading organic air coverage for ground maneuver energy.
That flexibility is precisely what allows a small force to fight way above its weight class. Okay, let's transition to the third pillar, the fire's platoon, the hammer, and the SRAD. This is the company's ability to hit back hard and immediately.
The fire's platoon has a crucial dual role. It provides responsive, organic offensive fires, and it acts as the dedicated short-range air defense, or SRAD, node.
For offensive capability, what are we talking about? Mortars?
More than that, the paper suggests highly mobile, optionally crewed systems, such as 105mm howitzers or 120mm mortar carriers, all mounted on those motorized chassis.
A 105mm howitzer at the company level is massive firepower. That offers range and lethality previously reserved for what, battalion or even battery support?
It does. And it means they can deliver suppressive or destructive fire immediately upon acquiring a target. The ability to execute effective counterfire without external approval is an absolute game changer.
But the defensive element is just as important.
It is, and it's tightly coupled with the air platoon. Their SRAD capability is cued directly by the air platoon's AEW assets.
So zero latency between detection and engagement.
That's the goal. They employ a mix of kinetic systems like vehicle-mounted 30mm cannons or heavy machine guns. But we really need to spend time on the non-kinetic aspect.
Yes, the source mentions non-kinetic effectors used to degrade enemy sensors and UAS. This speaks to the modern reality of drone warfare. How exactly do these non-kinetic systems function in this tactical context?
So, non-kinetic effectors are essentially electronic warfare, or EW systems. They're designed to deny, degrade, or disrupt the enemy's use of the electromagnetic spectrum.
So jamming.
Jamming, spoofing, yes.
Yeah.
Against the vast majority of enemy tactical drones, especially those that rely on GPS for navigation or commercial radio frequency links for control jamming, is often superior to kinetic interception.
Why is EW superior to just shooting a drone down with a bullet or a missile?
It comes down to cost, speed, and volume. A single shot from a high-cost kinetic system might destroy one Group 1 drone. But a sophisticated EW system can simultaneously disrupt an entire swarm over a wide area.
How does it do that?
It can cause them to lose their control link, crash, or just automatically return to base, all without firing a single round. It's the most efficient and scalable defense against that constant tactical UAS threat we've seen on the Ukrainian front lines.
So by integrating these systems organically, the company creates its own dedicated electronic bubble of protection.
A bubble of protection that perfectly complements the kinetic defense of the fire's platoon.
So we have a highly mobile combined arms company that can see, shoot, and electronically jam threats all on its own. Now, for the brain of the operation, the Operations and Intelligence, or ONI, platoon.
The ONI platoon is the company's command post, its CP, and its C2ISR hub. This is where the synchronization happens. They fuse the vast amounts of data coming in from the air platoon, the ground sensors, adjacent units, and higher echelon intelligence reports.
Who's in this platoon?
Their personnel include all-source intelligence specialists who process the raw data into actionable insights, and signal network specialists who maintain all that connectivity.
And the paper introduces a new concept here, the operational specialist. This specialist's job is purely to manage the data pipeline, which is a massive burden in modern warfare.
This is a critical acknowledgement of the cognitive reality of the transparent battlefield.
What do you mean by that?
In a traditional company, the commander and the executive officer would be absolutely drowning, trying to manage the technical systems. They'd be deciphering the common operating picture, the COP, managing comms security, troubleshooting data links.
They'd be technicians instead of commanders.
Precisely. The operational specialist takes that entire administrative and technical workload off the commander's shoulders.
They're essentially the data manager for the company, allowing the commander to focus 100% on the fight itself, on decision-making, maneuver, and synchronization.
Exactly. They're managing the mesh network, ensuring secure data flow, and prioritizing which sensor data reaches which shooter. This drastically reduces the cognitive load, which is perhaps the single biggest bottleneck in high-speed combat.
But you've raised an important point earlier, redundancy. If this one specialist is the nerve center, what happens if they become a casualty or the CP gets hit?
That is the challenge of pushing such complexity down to the lowest level. If you consolidate the brain power, you consolidate the risk.
So how does the network architecture address that single point of failure?
The paper addresses this through decentralization, even within the O&I function itself. The network is described as a resilient mesh architecture.
What does that mean in simple terms?
It means there is no single central server required for all communications. Instead, every vehicle and every platform acts as a node, routing data dynamically. If one node, say, the main CP vehicle, is destroyed,
The network doesn't go down.
the network automatically reroutes communications through the remaining platforms. The fire's platoon vehicle, the ground platoon leader's vehicle, they all pick up the slack.
So data and C2 aren't centralized. They are distributed across the entire company footprint, ensuring connectivity and command integrity even under heavy attack.
Precisely. And this robust, decentralized network ensures connectivity not just within the company, but it enables direct coordination with adjacent companies without having to push the data back up to the battalion HQ first. It just cuts out another step.
And that maintains that high operational tempo we've been emphasizing. Okay, finally, we arrive at the fifth pillar, the support platoon, the logistical trailblazer. Autonomy is worthless if you run out of fuel or ammunition 30 kilometers from the nearest support base.
The support platoon is designed for comprehensive sustainment and maintenance, but with a minimized logistical tail. They manage all classes of supply, with a specific emphasis on power management for that massive UAS fleet, and Class V, which is ammunition, needed for the variety of kinetic and non-kinetic effectors.
But they have to be low signature themselves, right?
Yeah.
Large logistics convoys are the most vulnerable targets out there. How does this company manage transport vulnerability?
They utilize leader-follower convoys. These are often uncrewed or optionally crewed utility vehicles that follow a lead vehicle autonomously. These OCVs can carry the necessary heavy supplies, fuel, ammo, water, with significantly reduced exposure of personnel.
But the innovations in the support platoon go way beyond just transport.
They do.
Let's talk about the medical section. You mentioned advanced capabilities.
The medical section institutionalizes advanced trauma care at the point of injury. This is critical because external medical evacuation often breaks the low-signature protocol.
So this is battlefield medicine taken to the company level?
To a new level, yes. They are equipped with critical supplies that traditionally reside much, much further back. The big one is whole blood and plasma for damage control resuscitation immediately following a traumatic injury.
Having whole blood at the point of injury significantly increases survival rates for severe hemorrhaging. But how do they manage complex medical cases without a full hospital staff?
They leverage telemedicine for immediate reachback. They have secure, high-bandwidth communication capabilities that allow medical personnel on the scene, we're talking advanced medics or physician assistants, to consult instantly with specialized surgeons and doctors at higher echelons.
So a surgeon miles away could guide them through a complex procedure.
Exactly. It extends specialized care right into the forward area while maintaining the company's operational footprint.
Now, for what I think is the most radical departure from traditional sustainment, the fabrication section, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, advanced manufacturing on the front lines.
This is truly next-generation sustainment philosophy. It tackles logistics by eliminating the requirement for distant supply chains for common failure points. The fabrication section uses advanced manufacturing techniques, specifically both additive, which is 3D printing, and subtractive, which is CNC machining, to produce critical repair parts at the point of need.
Can you give us some specific, realistic examples of what they would be printing or machining? I mean, they're not going to be fabricating an entire engine block.
No, of course not. The focus is on high-failure, low-complexity parts that cause outsized logistical delays. Think gaskets, specialized non-structural brackets for vehicle mounts, maybe specific internal components for complex sensor systems.
What about for the drones?
That's a huge one. Maybe replacement struts and landing gear for their UAS fleet, which are constantly sustaining damage. Since that UAS fleet is so crucial, being able to fabricate new drone components in hours rather than waiting days for a specialty shipment is a massive, massive advantage.
It addresses maintenance downtime head-on. Instead of relying on a vast spares inventory and a vulnerable logistical trail, they can be truly self-sufficient in maintenance.
It is the ultimate expression of dispersed sustainment. It dramatically reduces the logistical tail, increases the operational readiness rate, and maintains that crucial low signature by keeping external logistics convoys to an absolute minimum.
So what does this all mean when we compare this radical structure to a typical NATO light formation that operates today? The shift it's just profound.
The comparison is essential because it really highlights the magnitude of the doctrinal leap. If you look at a standard NATO light infantry company sitting at roughly the same 130 to 150 personnel mark, it is fundamentally a maneuver element that relies almost entirely on external support for anything beyond small arms action.
Whereas this proposed company,
The proposed company defines its primary role as Combined Arms Maneuver, Sense, Effect, and Sustain. It's a completely different job description.
let's run through the organic differences using the template the white paper provides, starting with intelligence.
A standard light infantry company has no dedicated intel specialists. The intelligence function is centralized at battalion. This means the company receives intelligence that's often delayed and filtered, forcing them into a reactive mode.
Whereas the proposed company,
The proposed company, with its organic O&I platoon, can process all source data in real time. It allows them to be proactive, to tailor their maneuver based on fused immediate intelligence.
the same applies to engineers, which we established as a key component of operational speed.
Correct. Standard companies have zero organic engineer assets. The proposed company has that dedicated section, which means immediate mobility, survivability, and counter-mobility support without any external coordination. The company can independently solve its own obstacles to movement.
And the domain-specific assets, air defense and aviation, that's where the biggest gap exists.
Oh, absolutely. Standard companies have zero organic air defense. They rely entirely on brigade or division assets, which are tactically too slow to respond to low-altitude threats like small drones.
And here?
The proposed company integrates DCA and SA-RED right into its structure, providing immediate layered defense against the primary tactical threat, which is UAS. Similarly, a standard company has to ask the battalion for UAS support. The proposed company dedicates an entire platoon, the Air Manoeuvre platoon, to managing a diverse UAS fleet for 247 reconnaissance, observation, and forward targeting.
And the fire's capability is the final nail in the coffin of the old model. Standard companies have, what, a couple of small organic mortars?
Two 60mm mortars, typically, or they have to ask the battalion for support. The proposed company's fires platoon, with its organic 105mm howitzers or 120mm mortar carriers, wields orders of magnitude greater responsive volume and range of fire, completely independent of the battalion's resource allocation.
This all boils down to the core doctrinal shift then. The current model makes the battalion the primary combined arms element.
Yes, because the battalion is currently the lowest element that holds all those centralized assets, the engineers, the fires, the intel, the heavy maintenance. The proposed model just flips this hierarchy on its head.
And it makes the company the first echelon that's capable of independently executing the full find, fix, finish cycle.
That's the key phrase. In the old model, the company could find, but they needed to request assets from battalion to fix and finish. Here, the air platoon finds, the O&I platoon fixes, and the fires platoon finishes, all within the company's own structure.
The strategic benefit, therefore, is a massive increase in operational tempo and the reduction of C2 burden on the battalion HQ.
The battalion commander transitions from being an asset allocator to a grand synchronizer. They can now focus on the deep fight, the logistical choreography between their 3 autonomous companies, and the synchronization with adjacent units or higher echelons. They don't have to worry about whether Company A's fire request is getting answered in time.
And the white paper explicitly uses the Russo-Ukrainian War as the blueprint for the modern transparent battlefield. The entire company structure is a formal institutionalization of the hard-won, often brutal lessons learned in that conflict.
The connection is clearest in the concept of the sense effect link. The war showed the effectiveness of linking tactical sensors, often just off the shelf, consumer-grade drones with operational effectors, typically brigade-level artillery, to strike deep behind the forward line of own troops.
But the paper notes that this link was often slow, ad hoc, and inconsistent. It relied on improvisation and these lengthy coordination protocols.
That latency was the vulnerability. The enemy could often shift position, or the target could just egress before the artillery round ever landed.
And the solution proposed here
Is to eliminate that latency by making the link organic and high speed. The air platoon is the sensor, the fires platoon is the effector, and the O&I platoon is the high-speed network link that fuses them. They are permanently connected.
So the targeting cycle, which might have taken 10 minutes on the Ukrainian front lines via these improvised methods, now takes 90 seconds under the immediate command of the company commander.
That speed is the true tactical advantage.
Moving to survival, the core lesson taken from the conflict is terrifyingly simple. Any unit that can be seen can be killed. How does this company structure stack up as a countermeasure against that pervasive surveillance?
Every single design feature is a layered countermeasure. The low signature from the motorized platforms is the first layer, reducing the thermal and acoustic profile to avoid being put in that high-value target queue. But the defense goes much deeper into active denial.
It's the organic, layered air defense that provides the real tactical immunity.
Exactly. The most pervasive tactical killer in the Russo-Ukrainian War has been the enemy reconnaissance and loitering munitions, like the Lancet drone, which are cued by local ISR.
And this company can counter that directly.
By integrating DCA and HROD into the air and fires platoons, using both kinetic rounds and non-kinetic jamming, they provide immediate protection against the most prevalent tactical threat. If the enemy's reconnaissance drone is shot down or jammed, the long-range artillery, no matter how precise it is, has lost its eyes. It cannot accurately engage the unit.
And the dispersed sustainment element also critically plays into survival by reducing the signature of the logistics chain itself.
Logistics convoys are notorious for creating massive signatures and acting as these big, juicy, lucrative targets.
Right.
By incorporating advanced medical capabilities like whole blood and telemedicine in the fabrication section with its 3D printing, they significantly reduce the need for those large, vulnerable logistics convoys to resupply or evacuate critical components and casualties immediately.
So they can sustain themselves autonomously for longer.
Which minimizes the time those large, high-signature vehicles are exposed on the roads.
Finally, the source emphasizes the formalization of structures that were previously just ad hoc. Commanders on the ground in Ukraine, they realized they needed drone pilots and intel analysts attached to infantry units just to survive.
That improvisation was effective, but it was resource-intensive, the training was inconsistent, and the procedures were messy.
So the proposal recognizes that necessity as permanent and foundational.
Yes. By making the O&I, air, and fires platoons permanent members of the company, the structure ensures deep integration, high operational consistency, and standardized training from day one. You start the fight with a perfectly harmonized combined arms team rather than having to duct tape one together under fire.
And that institutionalization is what elevates the concept from a wartime stopgap to a cohesive military doctrine.
That's it.
This leads us to the final and perhaps most complex element, leadership. If you take all these highly specialized, complex assets, ground maneuver, UAS swarms, indirect fire, SARED, advanced manufacturing, telemedicine, and you consolidate them under a single 150-person command.
You are increasing the cognitive load on that company commander immensely.
The paper acknowledges this potential critical flaw head-on, right?
It does. The commander has to simultaneously synchronize ground and air maneuver, manage multi-domain fires, including electronic warfare, integrate real-time intelligence, and oversee complex, dispersed logistics protocols.
This is far beyond the scope of a traditional company command.
It is. It starts to resemble the complexity of a small battalion or task force staff officer's job.
So this massive increase in technical and strategic responsibility, it necessitates a reevaluation of the rank structure. They're no longer just leading patrols, they're operating a tactical ecosystem.
And the paper explicitly suggests that this command complexity demands a higher level of aptitude and experience. They propose this should be a second command for an experienced captain, so a captain who has done this job before in a traditional unit. Or, crucially, a first command for a major.
A major, a field-grade officer who typically occupies staff positions at the battalion or brigade level, focusing on strategic operational planning. Why does the white paper feel that a major skill set is suddenly required at the tactical company level?
Well, a major brings experience in staff management, in operational art, and in multi-domain synchronization. They are trained to think beyond the immediate tactical engagement and to consider sustainment cycles, intelligence fusion, and the next 48 to 72 hours of operations.
Which is what this company needs.
The complexity of running this combined arms company, which internally functions like a mini battalion, it demands that kind of operational thinking. It's an acknowledgement that the information density of the modern fight has elevated the required skill level of the tactical commander to that of a mid-level staff officer.
But this introduces a challenge, doesn't it? Majors are a finite, expensive resource. Is this proposal even feasible if it requires elevating the command responsibility to such a degree across an entire theater?
That is the critical risk assessment the military has to make. The cost and scarcity of qualified personnel are high. Training a captain to manage this complexity, or deploying majors into what has traditionally been a captain's role, represents a massive investment in human capital.
What's the counter-argument?
The counter-argument the paper makes is that the cost of not doing this, the cost of slow C2 lag, high attritability, and tactical failure, is ultimately much, much higher. You are trading investment and training for tactical survival and operational speed.
The role shifts completely from a traditional line commander to a master system synchronizer.
Exactly. The commander isn't doing the jobs of the operational specialist or the fire's platoon leader, but they must understand all those domains well enough to make near-instantaneous multi-domain decisions. They have to anticipate how a jammer failure affects the UAS recon and how that, in turn, affects the maneuver plan.
Let's conclude with a final assessment then. What are the defining characteristics that make this proposed company ready for the modern battlefield and for deterrence on the eastern flank?
I'd say this is a dense, highly capable, low-signature formation designed to seize and maintain the initiative by leveraging speed over armor. Its defining features are unprecedented autonomy, extreme mobility, and systemic lethality, all pushed down to the company echelon.
And it's built for survival.
It is expertly engineered to sense, affect, and survive independently, making it resilient against the pervasive threats of the transparent battlefield, where previously relying on external support meant operational death.
It's a remarkable synthesis of technology, leveraging everything from optionally crewed vehicles to whole blood and 3D printing, all focused on solving that core problem of being seen and killed. It truly defines the future of decentralized warfare.
It's a complete integrated solution package.
That was a tremendous deep dive into the Combined Arms Motorized Company concept. The sheer amount of capability they've managed to integrate, especially that organic fabrication section and the recognition of the need for an operational specialist just to manage the data load, it's frankly revolutionary.
What stands out to me the most is the philosophical implication for the rest of the Army structure.
What do you mean?
If this company structure becomes the standard for NATO's future ground combat operations, if the company can independently find, fix, and finish the enemy, it fundamentally changes the role of the echelons above it.
You mean the battalion and the brigade HQs. If the company is autonomous, what's left for the higher commands to do?
Exactly. Does the increased autonomy at the company level necessitate a corresponding simplification or even an elimination of assets previously held at those higher echelons? If the company has its own engineers, its own fires, and its own HORAD, the battalion no longer needs to manage those assets or the staff required to coordinate them.
So the true revolution.
The true revolution here might not just be in what is added to the companies to make them lethal and survivable, but in what complexity and bureaucracy are removed from the higher HQs because they are finally freed from micromanaging tactical assets. The ultimate goal may be a leaner, faster, more resilient command structure from top to bottom,